Welcome back to Haunted and Historic Australia for another Criminals, Cutthroats and Convicts episode with the Sydney Park Serial Killer series. Episode 12 is our last victim in the series before we look at possible serial killer suspects. Well, we have come so far since poor Mad May, and we have spanned more than 2 decades. Episode 12 is Shirley Butler, a 21-year-old young woman with her whole life ahead of her, but like so many in this series, her life was cut short by a fiend. As always, let's start with who Shirley Butler was. Shirley Butler was born September 27th, 1927. She lived with her divorced mother, Ethel Butler, née Bull, her younger brother, who was 16 years old, and her mother's brother, her uncle John George Bull. Her older sister had moved out. Shirley should have left too, but she apparently stayed for her younger brother's sake. The home was not a happy one, as later explained to police by a neighbour. Shirley's father had left when she was only 6 years old, meaning that her younger brother was fathered by another man. Shirley's grandmother used to live with them until she died. Within a matter of 5 years, Shirley's life went from a fairly happy one to misery. Once the grandmother had passed, however, the house turned into shambles. Ethel drank, the kids were neglected. She moved her brother in, and he became a tyrant. No wonder Lois left. Shirley kept clothes at a neighbour's house because she couldn't have anything nice. Lois and Shirley would have clothing that they would cherish, and the mother would destroy it all. No wonder she didn't want to be at home. The neighbour said in the 15 years that she had lived next door to the family, Shirley never had any friends over. Perhaps someone came to the house once or twice, but they didn't stay long. And she settled with having to entertain her friends over the years in a vacant lot down the street. She had also been living with her best friend, Mavis Finks, for about 3 months that year, leading up to December, and had only been back a few weeks before the fateful night, at the request of her mother Ethel. Neighbours told of how the two slept in a double bed together and would often quarrel loudly. The murder of Shirley Butler remains unsolved today. It was December 24th, 1952. Sydney was alive with the excitement of Christmas Eve. Families got together, stores bustled with last-minute shoppers, and the streets gleamed with festive lights. But for 21-year-old Shirley, she would not live to see Christmas Day's dawn. Shirley was a machinist at the sugar refining company at Piedmont. Witnesses remember Shirley leaving home at 6 a.m. that Wednesday for work. After her shift finished around lunchtime, she went to a city hotel and met up with Mavis, her best friend, until Mavis left around 7 p.m. She then caught a ferry to Circular Quay Wharf and met up with another girl named Elsie Feltwell. They went to Luna Park via the ferry and met a Maxwell Brown, a 20-year-old lithographer, and a junior enlisted sailor named Ray Hinkler. They all spent the evening out drinking at a park under the north end of the Harbour Bridge, until around 10 p.m, when Elsie stated she had to go back to Luna Park to meet up with her sister. Maxwell said after Elsie left that he and Shirley walked around a bit and had a little kiss and cuddle, but Shirley didn't want things to go any further. And when he tried it on, Shirley got abusive. He left in a huff on George Street, and Shirley made her way to Wynyard tram station. A witness, a shopkeeper, remembers seeing her, or a woman resembling Shirley, drunk and tired looking around 11:50 p.m, catching the Wynyard tram, and seated next to a man in a grey suit. They located the man who wore the grey suit later on. His name was Brian Webb, and he told police that he witnessed Shirley getting off the tram at North Sydney Station. The tram will be quite an important trip later in the story. Shirley was last seen walking home through Waverton, a quiet North Sydney suburb, at around midnight. The next morning, Christmas Day, the festive air turned grim. A 17-year-old young man named Frank Henry Leary was walking his dog along Euroka Street and where, what is now Akram Park, made a horrifying discovery. A young woman's lifeless body in the grass face down, crumpled among the overgrown grass in a vacant allotment near Shirley's home. Her clothes were torn and her body bore signs of a brutal struggle. She had been beaten and strangled with a wound to the back of her head. Police launched a full-scale investigation. Detectives combed the scene, searching for evidence. Shirley's handbag and her shoes were found metres away, suggesting she had fought fiercely before being overpowered. A post-mortem examination revealed that Shirley had died from manual strangulation. There were bruises on her face and arms, indicating she had fought her attacker. The crime was immediately categorised as a vicious attack, and investigators believed the killer was someone Shirley knew. In the weeks that followed, police questioned over 200 people, including friends, family, neighbours and known criminal figures. Mavis, her best friend, advised to police that Shirley had told her she was afraid of her uncle, John George Bull, because he was always belting her. However, no direct evidence linked John to the crime. A strange occurrence happened a few days before, on December 22nd. A Polish man named Leszek Kazbrzak had burst into the home and assaulted the uncle. John stated that the man said he could kill him if he chose to do so, keeping John cornered in the home. Not long after, Ethel walked in and simply sat down on the couch next to the man. Well, John shot off outside and went straight to the police. He wasn't sure if Ethel knew the man, so he didn't make too much of a deal of it at that point. And many witnesses came forward about Ethel. She was a real drunk, they said. She often was arguing with Shirley at home, and sometimes John had to break up that fight. It wasn't a happy home. Police interviewed Ethel of her whereabouts on the night. Ethel claimed she got home at 6 p.m. after having a drink with friends. She said she went to bed at 9 p.m. John, her brother, stated he was home at 7 p.m. and she was not. He then went out to drink with relatives until 10 p.m. When he arrived back home, neither Ethel nor Shirley was home. Heaven knows where the 16-year-old brother was. John stated Ethel only got home after midnight, as he heard something rustling outside, and when he went to investigate, imagining that the Polish fellow had come back, he finds his sister hiding in the bushes outside wearing a green dress, something that she denied to police. Another witness stated she saw Ethel holding flowers from Berries Bay down the road at about 12:30 a.m, walking from the direction of the street near where Shirley was found dead later in the morning. Well, the police were stumped and offered up £1,000 reward, leading to the arrest of the man. They had numerous suspects and motives, but no hard proof. The crime scene did not give up clues, and her death was ruled as a manual strangulation. Could her mother be powerful enough to strangle her to death? Maybe she could have hit her on the back of the head pretty hard before doing so, but they did say it looked like man's hands that crushed her throat. Interviewed over 400 men, including sailors and people she knew. Even Detective Ray Gunner Kelly was heavily involved in the case. Ray would later be named as one of Sydney's most corrupt cops. He followed an investigation that led him to Brisbane, where a Betty Shanks had been murdered outside her home in similar circumstances. But Sydney, Brisbane, they couldn't find a link between the two other than the type of murder. someone being bashed around the face and strangled to death. By 1954, after nearly 2 years of frustration, an inquest was held to re-examine Shirley's murder. New witnesses had come forward after radio station 2SM broadcast a reenactment of her tram ride home, with a cast of actors hoping someone would remember a vital clue. Theories about the murder swirled. Some investigators suspected Shirley had an encounter with a stranger, while others believed she had an argument with someone she knew. One chilling possibility emerged: she had been targeted by a serial killer. Despite extensive efforts, police failed to identify a suspect. No arrests were made, and with time, leads dried up. Shirley's murder remains one of Australia's and Sydney's most haunting unsolved cases. Decades have passed, but questions still linger. Who killed Shirley Butler? Was it someone she trusted, or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? Theory 1, the wrong place at the wrong time. Some believe Shirley was simply an unfortunate victim of random violence, possibly targeted by a stranger with sinister intentions, given the late hour and isolated location near her home. It's possible an opportunistic attacker spotted her alone and acted impulsively. Theory 2, someone she knew. There was speculation that Shirley may have known her killer, possibly a jealous suitor, an acquaintance, or even someone from her workplace. Cases where victims are attacked close to home often involved someone familiar with their routine. However, no concrete suspects were ever identified. Theory 3, the tram connection. Investigators were intrigued by Shirley's last tram journey before her murder. This led to a world-first radio broadcast to try and jog the memory of the people on the tram about Shirley's last movements before her untimely death. If her killer had been watching her or following her, they may have waited for the perfect moment to strike. Theory 4, a serial offender, or serial killer. Sydney had a number of violent crimes around that era. We've given you quite a few episodes of them, and some suggest Shirley's murder could have been linked to a serial attacker. Similar crimes targeting women walking alone had occurred before and after her death, sparking speculation that her killer may have committed other unsolved murders. And Theory 5, Leszek Kakprzak had also been convicted of beating a woman and assaulting her the night he also assaulted John George Bull at his home in Euroka Street, and that was only a couple of days before. Many other witnesses claim they saw him on Christmas Eve in the area before the murder. One woman even stating that he bumped into her deliberately and she was very intimidated by him. They picked him out of a lineup, but he was never formally charged for the murder. Although he went away for 12 years for the assault on both the woman and John, he wasn't put away for Shirley's murder. They just didn't have enough evidence to do it. Although these theories were pretty good, none of them actually led to the arrest of anyone. They just didn't have the hard proof they needed. And sadly, her murder stands as a reminder of justice left undone. Shirley was a young woman with dreams taken far too soon, and until the truth emerges, her story remains one of Sydney's greatest mysteries. If you're enjoying these episodes, give us a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you're aware when we're posting our last episode in our Sydney Park Serial Killers series.